Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Am I the A-Hole? Story 1 is by Wide Opportunity 5989. Am I the a-hole for refusing to board a horse at my stables for what happened when its owner and I were teenagers? I'm a 35 female. I own horse stables which I run with my husband, who's 36. I inherited the stables and breeding business from my parents when they decided they wanted to retire. Everything happened when I was 17. I was in 6th form and had a small group of friends, but there was one girl in the group who didn't like me. Never found out why, just didn't interact with her as much as others. At 17, I was involved in a local riding school. I didn't need lessons as I've been riding since I was small, but I would go see people. I could be a nerdy horse girl with them and have them understand what I'm talking about. Fellow horse nerds will know. One of my friends, Sam, decided she wanted to learn to ride and started at the school I went to. She brought along the girl who didn't like me, Kate, but she didn't ride, just watched the lessons. This carried on for a few weeks, and I noticed that her attitude towards me at school just got worse. One day after the school had closed and we'd trailered my horse, my mom and I were talking to some people before leaving. For some reason, Kate and her sisters had hung around until the end. She was angry about something, and we were moving towards our car, and she started saying how I was a stuck-up B-word and rich girl. I can confirm, I am not. Everything happened quickly after that. Words were said and 3 of them ended up attacking me. I don't remember much as I hit my head hard enough to draw blood. What I do know is that police were called, they were arrested, and I ended up with a mild concussion, a fractured wrist, and a large gash on my face. This left a large scar from the outside of my left eye across my cheek to the top of my lip, which I had to look at every day for the rest of my life. Kate and her sisters were over 18 at the time and were charged with ABH in the incident on their record. Out of our friends, only 2 were on my side and cut Kate off. Sam sided with Kate and tried to get me to get the police to drop the charges. I didn't. Coming back to yesterday, we have boarders at our stables where the fees include everything excluding vet charges and any feed outside of the hay the horses need. We always meet owners before agreeing to board the horses, and my husband was the one who arranged the meeting and put it on the books. The meeting was with Sam. As soon as I saw her, everything that had happened when I was 17 ran through my mind. She might not have been there, but her defense of Kate cut deep, and it still hurt after all these years later. I told her straight out that we wouldn't be able to board the pony she had bought for her daughter, and told her of the other stables in the area before walking away. My husband apologized for booking her in, but I don't blame him as he didn't know who it was. It's the next day and I'm starting to feel bad as I know how expensive livery can be, and it all happened 18 years ago. Am I the a-hole for turning her away like I did? Are you the a-hole? No. Sam wasn't the biggest a-hole in the story, but she was still an a-hole, trying to get you to drop the charges on somebody who randomly assaulted you. There are other options in the area, and she obviously knew this was your family's stables. I don't know why she would even bother showing up after what she did. Our next story is by Coffee Queen T. Am I the a-hole for saying my significant other, dad's fiancé, can't hold our baby? I'm a 29 female and I had my first baby 3 months ago. From literally the time my baby was born, my significant other's parents were non-stop visiting. I was in the hospital 48 hours due to C-section and had his divorced parents and their significant other visit multiple times each. My issue begins here with his father's significant other. We'll call her Jane. For context, Jane made no effort to reach out during the entire pregnancy and only ever texted me once the morning of the scheduled C-section. Immediately upon entering the hospital room, Jane runs over to the bassinet and grabs my few-hour-old baby from it without asking or washing her hands. I was beyond exhausted and out of it at that time, and didn't say anything, which I regret. Fast forward the next 6 weeks, they constantly wanted to visit, and when they did visit, they wanted to sit there and hold my baby and take photos. Jane would show up with gifts for the baby and my significant other and nothing for me. And never once offering to help with anything or bring me coffee or food. Nothing. I log on Facebook one morning after they had visited and Jane had posted photos of my baby blabbering on about how Nana loves her and proceeds to give an inaccurate birth date in the comments. I tell my partner that this bothered me as she did not ask permission to post photos of our baby online and I would like them removed. Jane makes a huge stink over the matter, saying she's being targeted and everyone else can post but her. I explained my stance, and somehow it blew up into her feeling like she only has the title of a grandparent but can't do the duties of one, because I wouldn't let her change my baby's diaper. His father doesn't seem to get where I'm coming from either, but my significant other told him that Jane needs to apologize and understand that there's boundaries that need to be respected. It has now been well over a month and the holidays have come and gone. Haven't heard a peep from them since. Until this week. She passed along Christmas gift to my significant other. There were 5 gifts. 1 made out to my significant other, 1 to our baby, and the other 3 were made out to his sister and her boyfriend. I immediately knew she did this so I would see that she gave everyone a gift except me, as she had seen his sister the weekend before and could have given her the gifts. And I know she has met the sister's boyfriend twice, yet he gets gifts, but not the mother of the baby you love so much. I sat on it for a day and thought about it all and decided I have received nothing but disrespect from her from the beginning, and that I was 1, saying she isn't welcome in our house again, and 2, she isn't welcome to touch or hold our baby. Am I the a-hole for saying she is no longer welcome at our house and she isn't welcome to hold our baby? It's your choice who you allow to see and be around and have pictures with the baby, and if you want to exclude her, that's fine. But if you're doing it just because she didn't get you gifts and that she didn't text you before the baby came around, if that's your reasoning for doing it, I would say you are a bit of an a-hole in this. But I haven't read this comment entirely, but I'm going to read it and see what I think, and maybe it'll change my mind. By Marvolo Mirrors. I can't say that. Miroirs. Mirrors. Just reminds me of moist. Not the a-hole. Yes, yes, yes. From the very first minute of your baby's life, she's been unnecessary and inappropriate, holding your daughter without even washing her hands. Disgusting. She's also made it clear that she's going to get worse the more time elapses and the more allowance you give her. As they say with entitled people, you give an inch, they take a mile. Cut her off. The more she complains, the more valid you were in doing so. There are plenty of stories you can find in which the child were submissive and it ended up causing a world of pain. Just check up on the Just No Mother-in-Law subreddit for a million examples. The baby was entirely newborn at that time. She really should have washed her hands. But who's to say that she didn't stop off in the bathroom beforehand and then she washed her hands and came into the room and got all excited for the baby? I still don't think that she's a flat-out a-hole. She can interact with whoever she wants to, but I guess because it's your baby, I would say you have the kind of seniority on who gets to interact with the baby. But it just seems like there's some small pettiness between the two of you. She's showing pettiness from the start. I don't really know why. And if she really wants to be involved with the baby, she could come to you, apologize. She can fix this if she chooses to. Our next story is by Upstairs Mayday. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his family out after he tried to give me there's an inappropriate word here, blank-avention? It starts with WH. I am having a hard time feeling remorseful, and I'm unwilling to apologize for calling my brother out and for asking him to vacate my property. I've given him many chances to stop his behavior, and my brother won't stop shaming me for having been a stripper before I got my prestigious job. These are literally his words. I'm a nurse anesthetist. He has been making offhand remarks about me having been a stripper since he found out about 6 years ago. He gets on these long tirades about how I am ungodly, unholy, and that the sins I committed can never be forgiven unless I repent and let Christ into my heart. I am not religious. I'm certainly not a Christian and never will be one, but my brother refuses to accept this. Also, I only started stripping because his drug and gambling addiction ruined mine and our parents' life. He remortgaged their house, took out loans and several credit cards in our parents' name, and even sold our parents' identity to his former dealer. I didn't know how bad the situation was until I came home one day from university and found strangers living in our house. My father was too embarrassed to let me know they were living out of their car. They also never reported my brother to the police because my parents didn't want him back in prison. Last time he was in there for 2 years, me and my parents were blackmailed to pay for his prison debt. So when I found out my parents, baby sister, and baby brother were all living out of their car, I decided to work as a stripper. I made good money, and with that money I was able to house my family, pay off my parents' debt, my brother's debt, and put my younger siblings through college or university. During that time, I also paid for his rehab, and he got his crap together. Now he's happily married, employed, sober with a child on the way. For your information, I paid for his wife's IVF treatments. Last Sunday, our parents invited some people over for a big catered dinner. My brother and his wife thought this would be the perfect time to turn it into what he called a blank-avention and embarrass me in front of all the guests. I completely lost it. I was so enraged that I spent most of the evening cussing him and my sister-in-law out. I reminded him that I would never have been a stripper if he hadn't tried to ruin us. On Monday, I drew up an eviction notice and sent it to him. I want to cut all ties with him and his family. I am truly done with him. Almost everyone is telling me I am right to be angry, but it's terrible to kick him and his wife out when they are due to have their first child in 9 weeks. My parents are begging me to forgive him, and honestly, I feel like I have been and am being reasonable. I've given them 90 days. I am done being called the blank of Babylon and the downfall of mankind. Apologies for the length, but I thought you all needed to know as much as possible, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. I had to repost this because the moderators locked it down for breaking the rules. I have edited it and reposted it for judgment. Thanks. Edit. For clarity, I've stripped for 5 years and used the money from that to claw myself and my family out of debt and pay for my brother's rehab. I haven't stripped in over a decade. I paid for my sister-in-law's IVF and bought the house my brother and his wife live in with my nurse and anesthetist money. Which is why he doesn't feel bad about asking me for help now, because this money wasn't made from sinning. Also, my sister-in-law is just as bad as he is. Make it clear to him that he is basically doing the extremist religious thing, and to never talk to you about religious things, ever again. You could hold it over his head and say, if you want to live here anymore, I'll give you one chance. Never, ever bring up religion to me or say that I had a horrible sinner's past ever again. If he can do that, maybe you can keep paying his way. Hold it over his head, see if he's capable of change, since he so readily calls you the WH word and insists that you need to change and come to Christ. I don't think he's going to change anytime soon. He can just mind his own business, and if he can't do that, GTFO. That's all there is to it. Down in the comments by Antique Ad. I wouldn't give him 90 days. It gets some friends to throw all the stuff out of your house. Change the locks and call the cops that he's trying to break in. I would never talk to your brother again, and if you ever do hear that WH stuff again, ask him how his drug deals are going, and how are the accommodations in prison. Yeah, he's born again, which is always a joke. He ruined your family and made them sleep in the car, and has the audacity to blame your past for everything else. And if you're so evil, why is he living with you? Forget his baby, forget his life, go no contact with him forever, and talk to your parents about their reaction. And that's what he's doing to you. Not the a-hole, forget the lot of them. That's a pretty strong stance, but heck yeah, Antique Ad, I would say do that. I would absolutely say do that. If you want to be forgiving and be the super good one, you can give him another chance, and he needs to change his ways. This isn't a, you live in the house that I bought for you. I'm going to keep paying it for you, and you can trash talk me and tell me that I need to change my ways or repent for things I did in the past that weren't even bad. It's not their fault that the money involved in that kind of line of work is so good. I would say go no contact with him, because he seems to have embraced religious zealotry, which is never fun. You never want to be around that kind of person. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have an infallible day.